few months, he creates a revolutionary type of microprocessor.
Go on. Then what?
In 3 years, Cyberdyne will become the largest supplier of military computer systems. All stealth bombers are upgraded with Cyberdyne computers, becoming fully unmanned. Afterwards, they fly with a perfect operational record. The Skynet funding bill is passed. The system goes online on August 4th, 1997. Human decisions are removed from strategic defense. Skynet begins to learn at a geometric rate. It becomes self-aware at 2:14 a.m. Eastern Time, August 29th. In a panic, they try to pull the plug.
Skynet fights back.
Yes, it launches its missiles against the targets in Russia.
Why attack Russia? Aren't they our friends now?
Because Skynet knows that the Russian counterattack will eliminate its enemies over here.
Jesus.
Such talk of artificial intelligence may have been used to scare us or delight us inside of movies and science fiction television shows for a while, but thus far, the closest thing that we've seen to any type of robot that thinks or does anything is the Roomba. While such machines may be useful in their actual physical help and what they do, they're hardly intelligent. Yet, there are remarkable strides that are being made towards artificial intelligence and communicative thought. Yvonne Rayleigh's article, Electric Thoughts, discusses just that. Alan Turing was one of the founders of computational science. He created the Turing machine, the bomb, and the Turing test. The Turing machine uses codes and symbols of 1 and 0 to code everything, just like modern computers. If the current symbol is 0, leave it alone and move to the left. If the symbol is 1, change it to 0 and move to the symbol on the right. Works through primitive operations.
The Turing machine. The basic parts of a Turing machine require a tape, a head, a table, and a state register. The Turing machine requires an infinite amount of tape where symbols may be written and erased. The head is to read and write symbols. This example reads the information with a camera and writes information with a dry erase marker. This is a table of instructions. It carries out the commands and tells the machine when or right. It also moves the head left or right and assumes a new state as prescribed. This action is represented by the control panel. They could be anything. The idea is that anything that can be written down and converted to symbols has the potential to be carried out by one machine.
Primitive operations are widely believed that any set of instructions can be followed by a computer by doing the following: recognizing the difference between two symbols, following instruction to either leave the symbol or change it to the other symbol, and following instruction to move to the next symbol or halt. Turing machines loom large in theoretical AI literature. Despite the time it may take, they are thus far capable of computing any task. If you want to show that computers can't perform a certain task, you need only prove that a Turing machine cannot perform it. This leads us to cognitive science and artificial intelligence. Weak artificial intelligence is designed to make the same computational mistakes a human would, used to lay out problem-solving procedures by humans, and is a style of psychological theorizing. It predicts human output without having to compute the relations ourselves. Weak artificial intelligence is important because it reveals hidden gaps in theories such as the frame problem, brings complex multi-factor psychological theories into the realm of the manageable, reveals implicit taken-for-granted theoretical assumptions, and the frame problem, replacing the knowledge of a single thought process, is actually far more complex than thought. Prior to AI, it was assumed when P is checked for consistency against our old beliefs, Q1 through Qn, when Q1 is found that is inconsistent with P, it is changed to its negation, not Qi. When this was attempted, it became obvious that any knowledge base as large as humans is exhaustive to check all the possibilities. Hence, context is important. Strong AI, on the other hand, is the thesis that a properly programmed computer doesn't just simulate a mind, but that it is in fact a mind. It relies heavily on functionalism's input-output relationship to cognitive processes. To get from functionalism to strong AI, you need only show that a perfect simulation of human cognition is possible. Turing believed this was going to be possible as far back as 1950. He wrote a paper, Computing Machinery and Intelligence, and created the Turing test. The Turing test is a staple for AI. The Turing test, a test to determine if AI can pass for human, consists of a tester, messages, another human being, and a computer. In the tester can freely exchange messages with both the human being and the computer. You're not told which is which, and you try to fool the computer to determine which is the human and which is the machine. Turing predicted that we would eventually be able to create a computer that an average interrogator would only have a 70% chance of correctly identifying as the machine. This has not come true thus far. Now, an example of the Turing test, if not a little bit more of a futuristic version.
Do you mind if I smoke?
It won't affect the test. All right, I'm going to ask you a series of questions. Just relax and answer them as simply as you can. It's your birthday. Someone gives you a calfskin wallet.
I wouldn't accept it. Also, I'd report the person who gave it to me to the police.
You've got a little boy. He shows you his butterfly collection, plus the killing jar.
I take him to the doctor.
You're watching television. Suddenly you realize there's a wasp crawling on your arm.
I'd kill it.
You're reading a magazine. You come across a full-page nude photo of a girl.
Is this testing whether I'm a replicant or a lesbian, Mr. Deckard?
Just answer the questions, please. You show it to your husband. He likes it so much, he hangs it on your bedroom wall.
I wouldn't let him.
Why not?
I should be enough for him.
One more question. You're watching a stage play. A banquet is in progress. The guests are enjoying an appetizer of raw oysters. The entree consists of boiled dog.
Would you step out for a few moments, Rachel? Thank you.
She's a replicant, isn't she?
I'm impressed. How many questions does it usually take to spot one?
I don't get it, Tyrell.
How many questions?
20, 30 cross-referenced.
It took more than 100 for Rachel, didn't it?
The Chinese room argument, created by John Searle, grants that the Turing test will eventually be passed. It argues that it does not mean that the machine is thinking. Imagine you are locked in a room, or a computer casing, full of baskets with Chinese symbols. You don't know Chinese, but you have a book, software if you will, that tells you how to manipulate the symbols. When the Chinese symbols are passed into the room, your job is to pass symbols back out of the room. You don't know what the symbols mean, but you follow the rules given to you in the book anyway. This brings the question, are you actually thinking? Critics therefore argue that passing the Turing test does not therefore necessarily mean intelligent cognition. Ned Block argues that passing the Turing test only proves whether or not a computer can imitate a human. Block argues that a machine that passes the test may still have the intelligence of a toaster, because it is not thinking for itself. Respondents reply by stating that the same can be applied to other human beings, and thus philosophy's other mind problem comes into play. The problem of other minds is a philosophical dilemma in which philosophers question whether the consciousness of others exists. Can we know the minds of others? How do we decide whether other people are conscious? And what about the consciousness of other species? How to acquire knowledge of another's mind on the basis of what he or she says and does, or on the basis of a neural signature? Alvin O. in his book believes that we cannot take seriously the lack of others' minds, because to do so would require that we take a detached view on others that is incompatible with the kind of life that we already share with them. Does this apply to robots? Turing thought that eventually turning off an AI would be the equivalent of murder if they were deemed to be conscious. How do you feel? This brings us to robotics. Projects that are considered strong AI, like Darwin 7, are being created. Stephen Harnard of the University of Southampton, England, believes that computers will one day have the ability to understand the symbols, but need to learn the symbols the same ways as humans through sensory experience. Darwin 7 consists of a mobile base equipped with several sensors and effectors, Nomad, and a neural simulation running on a remote computer workstation. Here you will find a schematic of Darwin 7's brain. Looks an awful lot like representational theory of the mind, if you ask me. Bringing us to representational theory of the mind, representational theory of the mind, or RTM, is the form of cognitive science that the majority of cognitive scientists subscribe to at this time and is closely patterned after folk psychology. In RTM, the mind is composed of many bins containing representations which are similar to ideas in folk psychology, meaning simply that they are thought processes and generalizations of processes to do things, what certain objects are, etc. These representations are stored in bins called propositional attitudes. The bins or propositional attitudes are put in stores. A cognitive theory of memory or attention or action that's represented by boxes are then connected by arrows. Here is Darwin's brain in progress. Figure A demonstrates Darwin's brain when he is unconditioned, Figure B when he has been conditioned with visual stimuli, and Figure C when he has been conditioned with auditory stimuli. Darwin is learning through his sensory equipment. The sensory equipment Harnard thinks of as crucial might provide a computer scientist with a way to supply context to a computer's thought processes, which in turn will allow them to think. Harnard suggests a new test known as the robotic Turing test, where the robot passes the Turing test and is connected to the outside world. Background knowledge, it seems, will provide the answer to the frame problem. So, can computers think? No one knows yet, but we'll probably find out soon enough.